Hello, I'm Ketrін Oldrad. Thank you for inviting me to speak on PACT, stands for Pediatric Autism Communication Therapy, which is evidence-based neuro-diverse affirming intervention for autistic children. So I'll be presenting on the background to PACT, giving you 2 video examples of how it works, explaining the scientific research behind PACT and how professionals can gain PACT training. So what is PACT? PACT is theory-based. It works through the adult, an adult who has a prominent role in the child's life, present regularly on a day-to-day basis, and it's video-aided intervention, specifically targeted around improving social communication in autistic or possibly autistic children between the ages of 2 and 11. So PACT doesn't work directly with the child. It's mediated through an adult working in the child's natural environment. So as a social enterprise, we train health and educational professionals and paraprofessionals and teach them to be PACT trainers with caregivers. So it's working through the primary caregiver, and the context can be delivered in the home, education, nursery, school, in a centre, or online. And actually recently, PACT has been disseminated primarily online because of the use of video. It lends itself to that approach, which makes it very feasible to reach families independently of their geographical location or without the need to travel, which is particularly important for some of our families who are going through hardship and distress, and for some children who are acutely anxious. So the video feedback techniques are grounded in scientific methods. They include techniques that are validated, and it's a way of maximizing the opportunity to observe the child's existing communication skills, strategies, and observe the interplay between the child and the adult and the strategies the adult naturally takes to the interaction, starting by using assumed competencies, but building on those in a way that brings about a sort of pivotal, targeted approach towards social communication, which is aiming to improve the child's communication initiations and empowerment. So the sessions are 12 90-minute sessions over 6 months. That's based on the scientific evidence of the optimal level to achieve the results we gained in our research trials. And there are optional continuation sessions depending on individual need. So what's different about PACT is that it is a collaborative partnership. And in that partnership, it's working with the caregiver and tapping into their unique knowledge of the child, their unique experiences of the child, as well as the skills of the PACT facilitator, who has the skills of understanding the communication methods. So to generalize these skills into daily life, there's 30 minutes daily practice where at each PACT session, which happen every 2 weeks, there are new goals which are set and written in a programme, and that caregiver will embed that into 30 minutes quality time with the child daily. That's in a quiet setting. It should be pleasurable. It should be very sensitive and anchored in the child's motivations. And initially those are set aside as special times with the child, but gradually with practice, they're embedded in daily routines such as bath, bedtime, snack time. And each programme is individualised to the child depending on their motivations, their style of communication, where they are in their communication strategies. So it's very individualised. Whether the child is pre-verbal and communicating using a series of signs, symbols, gestures, non-verbal communication, or whether the child has language or is even verbally fluent. So it targets social communication and language, and in turn leads to, and proven, leading to improved development of child's socialization and life skills. And that's through longitudinal research trials of the child, following these children up as they become older. It empowers adults in recognizing and enhancing their skills. So quite often adults may not realize what skills they're bringing to the interaction. So through the use of video, we can pause, rewind, replay moments where it's demonstrated that there's better interaction with the child, but also showing them what's happening in those micro moments. These are moments that are very brief. They're difficult to reflect on in the fast pace of interaction, but through the use of video replay and freezing particular moments, we can anchor the observations, the insight and understanding of how the adult is playing a very important role of facilitating and supporting the child's communication. But also we can make very clear moments of child's initiation, whether that's a shift in their attention, their focus, their signaling to the adult, which may be quite subtle and missed again in the pace of the typical interaction, but can be observed very accurately in a video replay, which means that in that way, the therapy aims to bring the adult and child interaction into a better alignment. So each is interacting together, where the adult has better insight, understanding, and awareness of the child, and in turn, the child has better opportunities at initiating their communication and feeling understood. So I'm going to now just play you a video. This is one of my PACT sessions with a child at a very early stage of PACT. And what's interesting is initially a parent might say, nothing much was happening. I made this video, but my child doesn't look at me, my child doesn't notice me. And the parent feels that they're working very hard, but getting very little back. But when they review the video, there may be a light bulb moment where they realize the child is giving back a lot more than they thought. And they may also see how important their sensitive interaction is and how that supports the child and validates the child's signals to them. So this is just to give you a taster, but I will explain a little bit more about the PACT techniques. Fabulous. What do you think of that moment?
It was really nice. And he's looking up at me to sort of see if I'm responding to what he's doing. And I think I am responding to it. And yeah, he's sort of come physically closer to me, like his feet are touching me. He just seems very comfortable with me.
Mm. Okay, so that shows the brief moment of video feedback with bubbles and the parent's sense of getting the child showing pleasure, showing comfort, very comfortable, and responding in a way of just becoming physically closer. That's a signal the child is sharing the activity of touching the bubbles with the adult, and gives the adult a sense of validating their contribution but also an opportunity to realise the importance of those subtle signals, such as movement, touch, approximation of the child, coming closer to the adult. And in this way, we help the adult to reframe their insight into important moments of interaction, and then help them to see where this could go next, how they could sustain that and develop it. For example, in this moment, it was important the parent stayed with the bubbles because the child was in pleasure, and giving the child opportunity to show that pleasure, join in with touching the bubbles and the foam with the bubbles, and recognizing that the child is glancing to the adult to signal, let's carry on playing together. Out of that, we would select 2 best clips from the whole video. And from that, the therapist, the PACT therapist, facilitates the parents in identifying 2 key goals. So what would you take away from that? What would you do more of? And why do you think that's important? How is that supporting the child's development? What are the gains for the child? So this is a stage 1 where the child at the stage of shared attention, and the parents recognizing that, and it's in a written program for them to carry on identifying moments of shared attention in their 30 minutes daily practice. So telling you a little bit more about PACT. So the science has been going on since 2000, and some of the largest international trials in autism, with a long-term follow-up study 6 years later, but also other trials internationally in different countries, cultures, socioeconomic environments, to test out the feasibility and the evidence for PACT. So PACT has been rolled out in many diverse cultures, countries, and some very low economic settings as well. So I can talk to you a little bit about that. But basically, PACT is can be delivered wherever there's Wi-Fi. I think that's the only factor. There are no constraints of geographical location or constraints of country or culture. It's developmentally informed, so it does follow the developmental progression of social communication skills, and it's appropriate for children both pre and post-diagnostically. So there is now a new autism care pathway as a result of these trials, with delivering PACT when there is a concern that this may be autism at the earliest opportunity. And that provides a supportive pathway through to diagnosis and follow-up diagnostic support. And it may be for children where they haven't received a diagnosis yet, but where there are some red flag markers of possible autism. And this gives an opportunity to observe the child over a series of sessions where the child is in their own natural environment, whether that's home, nursery, school, and to see those interactions with familiar people. So it's really important for children who find it very distressing to go out of their natural routine, so that the intervention is taking the expertise to the child in their comfortable context. But more importantly, there are measures, inherent measures within PACT. So between the stages, video is a very good way of measuring, for example, the length and duration of shared attention, or the frequency of child communication initiations, child understanding, child progression in communication signals, nonverbal, progression in language. There are inherent measures. So this is very important to contribute to the picture that's been evolving of the child, and that would contribute to a validated assessment that's anchored in the child's reality. So the evidence is that we have strong scientific evidence of improved child communication, socialization, and language. But what's important is that that outcome is about the child becoming more empowered, that their neuro-diverse profile is validated. It's not about changing that in any way, but rather enhancing, harnessing skills the child already has, tapping into the child's unique motivations, their priorities, and their play, their interaction style. So it's all about a way of respectfully validating the child, each individual child, but enhancing their opportunity to express themselves, to be understood, and to understand others. So suitable for children between the ages of 2 and 11 years. So these are two important Lancet publications, the original PACT trial in 2010, and then a 6-year follow-up trial in 2016, which I'll now explain to you. So this is the time pathway for the trial. The red line here is the PACT cohort, and a reduction, this is in the initial trial phase over 12 months, a reduction shows an improvement in social communication and a reduction in autism distress. This is the treatment as usual group, and this is in a randomized controlled trial. So both groups had their usual services, whatever was available, and this group were randomized to the PACT treatment in early infancy. Then we have those results, that endpoint results, which were published in the original trial. And then in the second publication, we did a 6-year follow-up. So this is where there was no continued PACT intervention in this duration. This was the end of this trial. Both groups carried on with usual services, and then we did a full reassessment 6 years later. And what is striking about this outcome 6 years later is that the PACT group of children cohorts continue to show a significant difference, i.e. significantly improved social communication skills and reduced autism distress, despite there having been 6 years where there was nothing extra for this group of children. And quite interestingly, when we looked at some of our other measures, so one of our measures was we didn't just measure the child, we also measured parents or adults who were undertaking the PACT therapy. So you'll see here in this group, the red line again is the PACT group. The parents or adults that were doing the PACT, receiving the PACT therapy, showed a significant improvement in their synchronous responses. So that's becoming more aligned and attuned to the child, responding in a way that was more complementary and supportive, using those special techniques that they've gained through the video feedback methods. That led to a significant increase in those skills. But 6 years later, obviously life had moved on. These children had been in school for quite some time, and that effect washed out, basically. However, strikingly, for the children who showed in the PACT group a significant gain in their communication initiations, this is when the child spontaneously starts off a communication such as getting adult attention, directing the adult, look at that, or showing, giving attention, using communication signals to interact with the parent or adult in a way that the child initiated. It's non-prompted. That showed a significant increase, but that difference with the control group treatment as usual group was sustained 6 years later, independently of the environmental support context washing out. Child skills remained to be improved social communication skills. So that tells us something. the inference is that this early supportive intervention of PACT, just a 12-month dosage, actually is sustained and maintained by the child, and that early intervention acts as a catalyst for a better growth curve or trajectory of child development. And that signifies that this is an efficient way of supporting not just the short term, but the long term improved skills of autistic children. So because this is the best characterized group, where we have a very extensive range of measures on these children and their follow-up, it's possible to look back historically and ask the question, what are the important prioritized ingredients that predict a better outcome? Obviously, you'll be aware of children develop along different paces, different trajectories. Some do extremely well, some do less well. So we have all sorts of different patterns of progression through that 6-year follow-up. But we wanted to know what were the important factors that could inform our practice as clinicians. So this is sometimes not as expected. That's why we do research, because it doesn't always comply with our expectations. So things such as the initial severity of autism, child's verbal, non-verbal capabilities, IQ, none of those predicted long-term outcome. But one fact was very strikingly predictive, and that was the degree of change in synchrony in adult responding. So that change in adult responding in becoming more attuned, more aligned with the child, led to a strong 70% prediction mediating change in the child's communication initiation. So those children that were receiving a more sensitive aligned interaction initiated more. They became more powerful, more empowered communicators. And that in turn had a very strong effect on the child's social communication functioning. So improved social communication skills as measured on ADOS. And importantly, on that sustained effect 6 years later. So a 73% effect on the child sustaining long-term that improved, empowered communication, strong initiation, more socially engaged and engageable in social interaction, and less reduced autism distress behaviours. This was further verified by teachers. So teachers at this age, children were by now between the ages of 7 and 11 years, and the teachers would have had no knowledge of which children had or hadn't had preschool PACT. But the analysis of teacher rating on the Vineland was that the PACT cohort were significantly more socially engageable and engaged better in learning in the classroom and had better interaction in the classroom. So learning outcomes were improved amongst the group that had had this early intervention of PACT. So what does this tell us? And we are now 24 years on from the original starting of the original PACT. And this has now has implications for services about improving social communication and adaptive functioning in autistic children, and also providing a framework that's very validating, empowering for adults in the child's environment who equally need that support and careful guidance that they're on the right track, that their support is aligned and following the best evidence that we have currently available to us. And as a result of this evidence, this PACT has now been included in the NIHR as important for decision makers, and that includes in public sector services. It's included in the NICE guidelines, and it's also included in the UK national curriculum, as well as guidelines in other countries such as France, Italy, Spain, and other countries where it's now included in their government guidelines. So the take-home message from all of this research is that early support in the context of case management is very important in terms of this research says it's not about a wait and see. It's really important to start with support from the earliest signs, alert red flag signs of autism, to provide a supportive context and to have case management that can help reduce co-occurring problems or concerns and help bring about a better and mutual understanding and interaction for these children, which leads for a better pathway in life. So that's the a recommendation of the new autism care pathway, is this continuous journey from early detection, support, care, and school support. And it has public health implications nationally and internationally. PACT, or an adaptation of PACT, has also been rolled out in South Asia, in Brazil, and in South America, and a number of low economic settings. And there are some adaptations to PACT, for example, the use of materials in contexts where there are no toys or very limited play resources. There'd be more emphasis on using daily life interactions, more emphasis on weaving PACT into daily routines such as bath time, bedtime, time when the child and the adult are together in their daily life situation. So there are some adaptations which have been very successful, and they have shown that they've had equal results to the other PACT trials. So the socioeconomic context has not influenced the results in the replication trials. But also importantly, the neuro-diverse affirming validity and identity. So PACT is the opposite of behaviour modification. It's not about normalising autistic behaviours, it's rather about respecting, validating, enhancing the child's profile. It's relationship focused, so it honours that diversity respectfully, and maximising the adult's adaptation around the child, their attributes, and celebrating their unique abilities and style. It strengthens the child's sense of agency in terms of themselves, having that strength and power to signal their communication needs, wishes, and wants, to engage socially, and to be spontaneous with confidence. So how PACT works, it starts with a video of adult-child interaction. So this could be several short videos totaling about 10 minutes in length. If they're made in the home or an education context, those videos are made by the adult and they are sent through a secure link to the PACT therapist. Or if it's in a centre-based and families come to the centre, then the PACT therapist can make the video. But they set the scenes for natural adult-child interaction, trying to make it as comfortable as possible and selecting material that aligns with the child's motivation and making it pleasurable for the child. The adult or parent and therapist watch the video through the full 10 minutes and identify 2 best clips. And then they review those 2 best clips one at a time. And there's a technique of feedback using guided discovery by replaying and rewinding and freeze framing the video clips to show the skills and the potential skills that are emerging. So those best clips are where there's something happening in the interaction that demonstrates competencies and where we can build on those skills. It may be a moment of sharing, it may be a moment of child initiation. And then they mutually discuss that video. So this is where it's a partnership, that the adult who's with the child, knows the child well, equally contributes and interprets and builds in their own insights and knowledge into looking at the video, as well as the PACT professional who gives their contribution. And out of that, they summarise 2 or 3 goals, which are written in a PACT practice programme. So the programme celebrates what we've observed today in the video, what skills the child was demonstrating and the adult, where we're going next. These are the goals we're setting. And usually those goals are how the adult will change their interaction with the child. So I'm going to show you another video now. Again, one of mine. This is actually the same child, but at stage 5 of the PACT programme. So this is slightly further on, and a little bit of my feedback as well.
Mummy come? Mummy come? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Grab. Grab. When he brings in these vocalizations, we do notice that there's some resemblance to the word itself.
Yeah.
Isn't there? Like,
yeah. So, I mean, I noticed that sound he does for crab, he's doing lots of other vocalizations, but he won't use that sound for when he's sort of describing other things. Yeah. So they seem to be tailored to the specific thing that he's interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're called word approximations. They will be unclear, but it has clear meaning. The fact that his gestures are so clear that we can take it as a word and you're saying back that word. And so he's hearing repetition is good. Saying a crab. Yes. And then the fact he's making his vocalizations are different for different meanings. And because you read his nonverbal body language so well, better than anybody, your responses are going to be really accurate. What would you take away from that? Thinking about where we are now.
Can't wait. Because otherwise it might just push them under a bit too much pressure.
Yeah.
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 It's like a deer in the headlights. He said crab.
I'm totally with you. I'm feeling very excited right now. His gestures, more than ones that crab on the television. And in the moment, it's sometimes the parents may have a frame of mind. He doesn't communicate. The video replay, they could see it so clearly. He couldn't have been communicating more strongly. And what was lovely, it was the quality he nods, he glances, he gestures and signs. He's persistent. He'll get his message across to them until they recognize what he's trying to say. And then parents to have that validation of seeing that moment on video, even though they knew it was a good moment, don't think they realized how good it was. And that's very empowering for the parent. It anchors them in knowing where they are and knowing where they're going with their child, and very easy to identify the next steps. So that's the next steps are usually a naturally evolving understanding of exactly where we are in time at this moment in time and with our child in his development, and what's being important about validating him and supporting his developmental progression. So in that way, it's seamless, it's continuous flow, but also it is anchored. A therapist has in the back of their mind the PACT stages. So there is a manual for PACT, and there are clear, distinct 6 stages. And in each of those stages, there are strategies. So in this strategy was a repetition. Repeat back what he's meaning. Even if it's unclear, he's signaling the meaning with gesture. And even if it's unclear, have a guess. Repeat back, because it's validating for the child. That was one of the take-home strategies for parents. So the PACT has some processes, and each child will be slightly different. So it's not that a child should be doing this at this stage. It's more about the process. The process goes through this guided discovery techniques, where the adult gains deeper insight, using their existing intuition and knowledge, but makes sense of it, makes sense of those observations in those micro moments. It's sensitive. It's about being in the here and now and timely responses. So it's not about looking too far forward or looking too far backwards, helping the parent be attuned in the moment. So it's quite easy for adults to think, this is where I want to get to with the child, and there's quite a demand. Instead, this is observing this moment, this minute, what happened, and how do I respond in a way that's better, has a better alignment. It's about a balanced interaction. So it's about creating space for the child to lead and initiate, to signal their interests and things they notice and things that catch their attention. So it's balanced in terms of also the adult contribution is neither too demanding nor too passive. It's well aligned. Facilitating agency. So in some ways, it's passing the power over to the child, letting the child feel that they have a powerful influence over the adult, and that their signals are being recognized and validated, and strengthening both the strength of that signal, but the frequency of the signal, which is quite often a very strong driver for the child. And then generalizing it into everyday settings, so that it's the adult is just practicing in those 30 minutes, but until eventually it becomes continual, seamless across the day. It's a style of interaction. So these are the 6 stages of PACT. It starts with shared attention. So it's a context of low demand, the adult observing and weaving in a flow with the child, recognizing where the child's focus goes next, precisely what the child is focused on, what they're doing, their actions, their objects, what they're looking at, where their focus is, and sharing that and just staying with it and moving with the child as the child's motivation shifts. That learned low demand context of shared attention. Then the stage 2 is parent synchrony. The parent learns to make complementary comments that are low demand. So commenting, imitating, mirroring, following, and validating the child in a way that doesn't involve, there are no questions, no demands, no instructions. Instead, it's very complementary. And stage 3 then is focusing on the adult choosing what language they use to support understanding. So language that gives a name to the child's focus or describes the child's action, and using also body language, tone of voice, an emotional tone that's complementary to the child's emotion. So the whole communication act of the adult is complementary and reflecting what the child gives in that interaction. Then stage 4 is leaving more space, giving the child opportunities to anticipate and initiate. So this is an important step where children learn to step in and to intercept a little bit more and fill the gap of the interaction, where the adult is stepping back more, passing the floor over to the child rather than taking control of the floor, letting the child feel that leadership, that driver force. Stage 5 is looking at the child's communication functions: seek attention, request action, request object, negate, protest, look at me, give me attention. All of those functions, whether they're verbal or non-verbal. And then stage 6 is for children who become verbal. So that's where we add language expansions and extensions and reciprocal verbal interaction. And these are follow a developmental hierarchy. So to give you a young autistic person's testimony, this is actually a young man who has completed PACT. He's now in his early 20s, and this was his reflection on his experience. So he said, I think his experiencing shared attention in PACT gave me that skill of knowing how to share. Let's call it a shared experience. I'm that open person who gets on with everyone. It's like, come on, join us. It was an exposure to those sensitive adults. I thought, this person is interested in me, knows what I'm thinking and sees what I see. It was just having fun. It was play, just enjoyment, your style, things you're really interested in, and building a relationship. Yeah, the child finds a way, like he's always, once you join it with me, I'll join you, and it's a connection. Even my teachers seemed like friends in that relationship building. You felt like you were connected to someone, even if it's just a very small thing. And then this is a parent testimony. The knowledge and the mediation offered by PACT have allowed us to have an unwavering connection with Cameron. We were told he would not have an imagination or really show love or connection with family or friends. Although easy to believe when you are told by a doctor, that is the furthest thing from the truth. Social reciprocity, imagination, and love are in each of our autistic kiddos. When they're supported, heard, and understood, PACT taught us as parents how to be the ones who show Cameron how meaningful every action, feeling, and form of communication is, and he finally felt heard. So I'll just conclude by talking about some of the benefits to PACT services, as we're a not-for-profit social enterprise delivering PACT training, and we have experience of the feasibility of rolling out PACT in public sector services and a range of charities and other services. So one thing is that professionals have found it to be efficient and effective. Some services have done their own piloting and then been able to seek the go-ahead from managers based on gathering their own testimonies and outcomes locally. They found the efficiency, particularly with the online opportunity for online delivery or sometimes face-to-face. They found that parents who are going to be going through the diagnostic pathway, that there is already a very deep understanding of the child, and that it's not about the label, it's about the child's attributes, their unique style and contribution. It's versatile and accessible, available at the point of need. And the experiences have been very positive. So we've got qualitative studies that have been published showing that adults talk about this light bulb moment of child recognition and relatedness, this sense of being anchored in knowing how to respond and confident that the adult who's received PACT is empowered to feel that they know that when they're getting it right, because they get the feedback and validation there and then in the interaction. And the idea is they become less dependent on the PACT professional. The whole idea is the PACT professional is passing over the expertise to the adult, saying, you are the expert, you know best, and that I'm just here to facilitate this journey and then move away. There are benefits that are independent of socioeconomic, education, culture, or ethnicity. And there are certainly benefits in terms of the reduced need for secondary crisis management. So these children and adults report that those relationships are enhanced and fostered in a way that they feel more closely connected and attuned. Benefits for the autistic person, child, the power of being understood and understanding others, the power of agency, feeling a sense of the importance of their communication, being recognised and validated, a sense of relatedness, connectedness and engagement with improved relationships, and reduced distress-related behaviours. That early support is a catalyst for better development. It leads to a smoother, better developmental trajectory. And that development is graduated and phased according to need, that there's no prescriptive endpoint. It's about each individual child's journey along with their primary caregivers, that they feel a sense of going at their own pace. So it's the quality of that engagement and relationship, the quality of their interaction that is being benefited. Here's a graph to show you how many countries where we've rolled out PACT in the last 5 years. So you'll see, as well as Europe, there's the USA, Saudi Arabia, Brazil's not on there, but Brazil also, China, Australia, Romania, and Hong Kong are some of the countries that we're in. We're actually PACT is in 32 different countries. So it's extensively disseminated. And our mission is the maximum reach of PACT. So how is PACT delivered to professionals? It's validating neurodiversity, aligned to a continuous care pathway, and a progressive strength-based approach, realising individual potential by promoting a more supportive environment. So professionals can train at 2 different levels. Level 1 is a half-day e-learning programme with lots of video clips and interactive tasks. It introduces the techniques and research behind PACT, and crucial for those wishing to go further to level 2, but it's also suitable for people who just want to have an awareness of PACT, the ethos, the style, without actually delivering it as a programme. So PACT level 1 is open to care workers, whether they're in health, education, and a wide range of different disciplines. Level 2 is for professional to deliver PACT, to become a PACT therapist. So after completing level 1, this is the next stage, which is 2 days or 4 half days of live training with our trainers, where there are lots of practical presentations, demonstration videos for the 6 stages of PACT, and small group practice in role play, as well as post-course supervised practice, where you'll have one trainer that works with each professional, doing some supervision, seeing your PACT videos and supporting you through to certification. And level 2 practitioners receive the PACT manual and forms as part of their training. So level 1 is suitable for teachers, teaching assistants, service leads, managers, social care workers. And level 2 is suitable for professional speech and language therapists, clinical educational psychologists, psychiatrists, early years practitioners, both in mainstream and special educational needs teachers, family support workers, social workers, specialist nurses, and health visitors. And we ask that they have had a minimum of 2 years' experience of working with families of neuro-diverse and autistic children. So here are the details, the websites, the emails. If you're interested in gaining more information on PACT, or whether you're interested in registering for level 1 or level 2, please feel free to email us at the social enterprise. That's info@pacttraining.co.uk if you want any further information. And thank you for listening. Hi, Ketrін Oldrad again, just to respond to some of the questions that have been asked about PACT. So, does the PACT approach vary in its application based on the child's age or developmental stage? So, as described in the presentation, PACT is process-driven. All children, independently of their age, language or cognitive abilities, start at stage 1 and progress through the developmental hierarchy through the stages. So each stage is has goals adapted to the individual competencies, skills of the child. It is possible to return to some stages as the professionals progress. It may be necessary to revisit, refresh some of the early stages, as these are cumulative and build on the complementary skills and support around the child. But they follow the same hierarchical process going through those developmental steps. So the next question, what are the core components of PACT that should be prioritised when adapting the programme for resource-limited settings? So the core components we've identified are synchrony, adult adaptation around the child. And in the existing low resource settings where we've implemented PACT, we've focused on stages 1 to 4. And those are the most important stages for establishing synchrony, but also child initiations. There has been a research trial in India, and that has also shown the same pattern of results as we gained in our UK original trial. Next question, are there any particular profiles or characteristics of children who respond especially well to PACT? Well, that's where we did the historical analysis of all the data of all the children who were part of these research trials. And rather than it being characteristics of children, it's more the characteristics of the interaction and the adult's ability to adapt, to attune, to be well aligned to the child, that influence the developmental progress. And In some dyads, there may be very great changes, and those may happen more quickly. In other dyads, those changes may be at a slower pace and take longer. That doesn't matter. What we found was that any increase in synchrony correlated with improved social communication skills in the child. And every dyad would progress at their own pace. So there's no expectation that dyads will progress to a particular stage. Some may achieve to stage 3 or stage 4 at a slower pace and may need to have a refresh of one of the earlier stages. Some dyads may progress more rapidly, but still do a refresh of an earlier stage. What's really important is that the whole of PACT is designed that it's the environmental adaptation around the child. So synchrony really defines the whole of PACT. It's not any particular characteristics of the child. I hope that answers your questions, and I look forward to receiving any further questions you may have. Thank you.